Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy Jawan, your accountability partner. Good morning. I know most people are probably asleep right now. Y'all, look, this message is specifically for early stage professionals that are trying to figure out what's next or what their calling is or purpose is. But I think that anybody at any age can get something from this message. And in a nutshell, what I'm realizing is that there's no cookie cutter approach to figuring out the reason for why you are here, or in other words, figuring out what your purpose is. I personally believe that all through my K through 12 years, right, and just, past generations, family members, the whole nine, like I feel like as a society, we have been conditioned, at least initially, to take a cookie cutter approach when it comes to figuring out what it is you're supposed to do. So, okay, you go to school after K through 12, you either go vocational training or you go to school. In my case, it was go to college and, make sure you get a 4-year degree so that, you could be successful and increase your chances of having a high paying job with the college degree. And I am grateful for my college degree. I thank also my grandparents for spending a lot of money to help me pursue and get my college degree, which is in history and government from Bowie State University. Now, while I'm grateful for my degree, I realized that I'd only really used it for 3 of my previous careers, right? So lobbying, senior account executive, deputy legislative director, and then, a little bit when I was sort of running for office. But what I found interesting, right, is that because I was already in the career field of government, I realized that what we were learning in the classroom was really like the textbook way of doing things, but in all actuality, like in real life, real application, it was sort of completely different. And I had assumed, even when I was in high school, right, that basically like that degree for sure is the golden ticket, and it will for sure guarantee that you will have a high paying job. And then every time I was on the news or getting write-ups and stuff like that, I looked at it as that is cementing me to be successful, having a lot of money potentially and being well off without a doubt. But I think that once you get out of that controlled environment of high school or middle school or college, you start to realize that all of these different institutions of learning, for the most part, give you like a training ground, if you will, that will create somewhat of a foundation to prepare you for life. But at the same time, it is not the end all be all and guarantees you anything, despite how sometimes it was sort of preached to us in my experience. So why am I saying all this? I say all this to say that what I'm learning is that when you go and try to figure out what your purpose is, it's going to be messy, it's going to be frustrating. It may even be hard to be consistent at times because you might not necessarily know, like in which direction you're supposed to go. And then you might go in one direction, that door closes. You might go in another direction, that door closes. And then sometimes, a door might close and you might think that that just means that that door is closing permanently, but it could just mean that the timing just wasn't right. But again, it's hard for anybody to really be able to tell you one way or another outside of speaking from their personal experiences and giving and coaching you, based upon their experiences, right? And so I think that what this all goes back to, especially for those that, believe in God and their faith, the majority, really 99% of life is a faith walk. Like I said, yes, we have, sort of practical, analytical things that we can attempt to do, but at the end of the day, we really have to step out there on faith. And at some point you have to make a decision, because if you make no decision, then, you know, you'll look up and you'll be in your late 50s or 60s and you're like, man, I have so much regret because I didn't actually, you know, just step out there and do or explore one of the things that I thought I was called to do. And like I said, for me, that's sort of the space that I'm in. You know, military, I stepped out there. Running for office, I stepped out there. Going through a police academy, I stepped out there. Being a member, getting a scholarship to go Coca-Cola Consolidated, I stepped out there. You know, what else? There's a whole bunch of stuff that I've done. CSIS, which was basically a fellowship, learning more about international affairs. I stepped out there and did that. And so sometimes it looks like I can be all over the place, but it's really me just figuring out or exploring everything that I have an interest in to figure out and see which one really sticks. And I think sometimes that's what it takes, even with the fitness. Like, things are starting to stick, and I'm starting to sort of slowly refine my messaging, you know, and my content. But it takes time. And so again, I say that to say, like, don't feel like you're alone, and just keep getting up when doors close, because again, eventually all of the shortcomings, right? Eventually those shortcomings are going to be used as lessons and evaluations to determine what it is that you're really supposed to be doing. And it may not happen overnight. It may not happen next year. It might not happen in 3 years. It may not happen in 6 years. But what I do know is that if you stay consistent, at some point it will happen, and you'll be grateful in hindsight that you at least explored you know, these options. And again, it's easy for people, right? I'm not knocking anybody that you know, prefers to trade time for money at all, right? Like, I still do that. But there's also an entrepreneurship side of me as well that knows that there's so much more for me to accomplish beyond just what I'm doing. And so, you know, don't feel bad about failing when you're on a journey to figure out your purpose, because there's no cookie cutter approach. Love you guys. Have a phenomenal Wednesday, and we'll talk soon, y'all.